Welcome to War Room Impeachment, 22 November, year of our Lord 2019, episode 43. Only 24 hours from the historic episode 41. Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. We're live on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Salem Radio Network, America's Voice.news, and also Newsmax. And Raheem, why don't you tell people how I can get to the podcast?
The podcast, especially if you want to go back and listen to the historic episode 41, is available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud. And the most important thing is to go to warroom.org/podcast. You can get all of those there and leave a review, a 5-star review, I hope, but leave a review, maybe type something out. And, we push ourselves up the rankings that way and make sure more people hear this. It's extraordinary. We've been going 3 weeks, Steve, and we are in the top 100, easily in the top 100. I think we moved up to 80 today on the total iTunes news list. Every single news information service out there. We're 79 is Real Time with Bill Maher, so I can't wait to get over the top of Bill Maher.
We're going to get to the top 10, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Raheem Kassam from the United Kingdom is Nigel Farage's right-hand man, was the mastermind communication strategist and back of Brexit. Also was a former editor of Breitbart London. Jason Miller, the senior communication strategist and, quite frankly, the communication genius and back of the historic come-from-behind victory in 2016 of President Trump, and also the transition communication director. We've done this. We're doing it every day, 7 days a week, until the day after, which we'll have a wrap-up show, the acquittal of Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States. It's a historic moment. One of the things we tell you, we're trying to get all the information in an hour, or if we have special broadcasts like in the afternoon, to try to condense and consolidate in one space where you can go to our website, which we have all the news, and we have many stories there from mainstream media and left-wing publications, also Raheem's analysis and our writers. So we're trying to get it all one-stop shop where you can get the best of the best, and we curate this, but also to keep you a day or two ahead of where we think the messaging is going. What we're trying to do is make sure people have an understanding of the sophisticated information political warfare, because this is a battle of the titans. This is Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats versus Donald J. Trump in the Trump movement, and it couldn't be bigger. And a bunch of big developments today, and now Joe Biden and Lindsey Graham. Everybody's now getting engaged in kind of Mortal Kombat here, right? It's you can see that the huge throwdown is about to be upon us.
Yeah, no, I love this Joe Biden, Glass Joe, as I like to call him, throwing punches at Lindsey Graham. I mean, look, Joe Biden is in a very tough spot right now, because if he goes and engages on this, it's only going to elevate Hunter Biden's problems and remind people that Joe Biden is part of the swamp. But if he ignores it, then there's that echo chamber in his campaign of saying, why don't you respond? Why don't you respond? So he has the Hillary Clinton problem. It's, do they engage? Do they not engage? But this fight with Lindsey Graham, so just to set it up, Joe Biden is going on Don Lemon tonight on CNN. We'll recap it tomorrow, so you don't.
It was so good. You can tell it's so good. They release it earlier, not just to tease the piece, because it's going to go viral.
Yes, and
this is related to the letter that was sent out from Lindsey Graham's office. As Lindsey Graham is chairman of the Judiciary Committee, there had been, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, some hesitation of whether Mitch McConnell would want to grub around in the evidence generation of this, or just hold a strict trial with evidentiary material coming up. Then it looks like now he's given the leeway for Lindsey to actually get engaged in this in December.
Yeah, and I think also we've talked about this a couple times, but Will Hurd's closing remarks yesterday, where he said that just because someone happens to be running for vice president doesn't mean we should be ignoring aspects of corruption, especially to a country where we send $250 million. So what Lindsey sent was he requested documents related to Biden and Hunter Biden's previous work in Ukraine. Specifically, I want to know about phone calls with former Ukrainian President Poroshenko, including whether there's any mention of the country's investigation into the person who owned Burisma Holdings. Steve, there's one quick, just top-level takeaway here. Joe Biden could make this all go away by saying, I have never discussed Burisma with anybody, or I never discussed Burisma or my son Hunter's business dealings at all when I was vice president. He could come out and say that, but I don't think he can.
Well, he can. That's where,
right.
I mean,
I think he originally tried to say that, remember, it was a couple of months ago now, and then the picture came out of Joe Biden, the Burisma board member, and Hunter Biden playing golf.
Do we have the clip here? We want to play this because I think it's particularly how he says this. It gets very, and this is why War Room Impeachment is going to be so much fun going forward. Now is this historic but it's going to get personal and nasty.
Let me ask you, because Lindsey Graham now, who you've worked with, who was a friend, who I know there's video of him saying, oh, you are the nicest person he's ever met, you're the greatest man, and now he's asking the State Department for documents for you and your son. What do you say to Lindsey Graham and folks like him?
They're asking Lindsey Graham. They have him under their thumb right now. They know, he knows if he comes out against Trump, he's got a real tough road for re-election. Number one. I am disappointed, and quite frankly, I'm angered by the fact he knows me. He knows my son. He knows there's nothing to this. Trump is now essentially holding power over him that even the Ukrainians wouldn't yield to. The Ukrainians would not yield to, quote, investigate Biden. There's nothing to investigate about Biden or his son. And Lindsey is about to go down in a way that I think he's going to regret his whole life.
What do you say to him?
I say, Lindsey, I'm just embarrassed by what you're doing for you. I mean, my Lord.
Presumably, Corn Pop is also embarrassed for Lindsey Graham.
Is this? Do you interpret this, Raheem? It says he's about to go down in history of what he's done, or is about to go down as like a challenger, a Democratic challenger, or blow himself up?
Oh, I think he's talking about historically. Because I think this was the whole McCain thing, the whole Biden thing was, we must be on the right side of history. History will remember us as the heroes. We will write history effectively. And he's kind of saying to Graham, you're going to be forgotten as this guy who just did, what Trump said that you had to do because you wanted to win your re-election. But actually, Joe Biden, his body language in that clip, by the way, in this interview with CNN, he looks dejected. He looks tired, and he probably is tired. He looks dejected, like somebody who's on the back foot. And this comes on the back of yesterday, Peter Ducey at Fox saying to him, well, what about your new grandchild? This thing has come out about your son. And he turns...
I love Peter.
Joe Biden turns to a reporter asking a legitimate question, and he says, you're a real classy guy asking me a question like that. Hey, by the way, this is to do with an election coming up. This is to do with judgment. This is to do with they're asking for Secret Service protection for this new grandchild. The public has a right to know what's going on.
Didn't the 45th president of the United States, did he tweet? Did he tweet earlier in the day? Somebody just told me that, or did he send a tweet out? Congratulations.
I didn't see what the president said, but I saw it. So Rudy tweeted out just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
So Rudy jumped all over this, and way to pour a little gasoline on the fire. And he says, "This is what Rudy tweets."
Rudy's been taking so many incomings. It's good to see Rudy go back on offense.
Rudy sees someone else who's having a worse day, and he's like, "Man, I am going to punch this guy right where it counts." Which, by the way, Biden reminds me of growing up. I had Grandpa Roy, who was on my mom's side. And, Grandpa Roy was like 1,000 years old. And it sounded like one of the lectures that Grandpa Roy would give me, with Joe Biden there. But Joe Biden wants to run for president. So Rudy tweets out, Biden, Lindsey Graham will, quote unquote, regret his whole life. And Rudy continues on, this reminds me of Biden's decree to the media to silence me on September 29th. Now a threat to a U.S. senator. This is getting to be more and more like my old mafia cases. They sure do sound like crooks.
Wow. Pretty intense. This is going to get interesting. Here's the thing, communication strategy-wise. Was Biden stupid dudes? Because now he's made it a thing. This letter goes out, and at first I even thought Lindsey just sent it out to send it out, right? It didn't really seem like he's going to initiate this. Now that Biden's engaged him, has that ratcheted up that now Senator Graham's almost got to go forward and really press this forward?
Yeah, because here's the mistake by Biden. This basically invited every media outlet on the planet to then go to Lindsey Graham for a follow-up comment or to any of his friends. And so now Joe Biden, who ostensibly wants to be the Democratic nominee for president and then president, is now explain to me how fighting with Lindsey Graham get you to the Democratic nomination. I don't think it does. I mean, Lindsey's not some flashpoint, but it takes him way off track. He's not talking about, climate change or healthcare, things that Democratic voters want to hear about, or even just pure Trump hatred, which many of them do. He's now fighting with Lindsey Graham, which is so off target. That's the only thing that's going to drive the news tonight. No, that's why CNN leaked it out.
Right, 100%. That's my point. When you see him take an interview that's going to be in Don Lemon at 10 o'clock, and you bring it up to let it on a Friday afternoon at 3, hey, you want to make sure that audience, whatever Friday audience is out there before Thanksgiving, is watching tonight because Don Lemon picked the lock here. Before we go to another scene, and one of our favorites, Chris Cuomo. But I think Chris Cuomo is a pretty good guy, and we defended him when he got attacked that time in the restaurant or jumped on. Don't love his politics, but I think he's a pretty solid guy. I want to go. Why are the Democrats the other night on the stage? They had the lowest ratings. It's a total snooze fest. Why are the Democrats not taking on Biden about this corruption? It's kind of like Bernie Sanders had all the Clinton cash stuff, didn't take on. What is about the Democrats that they will not engage each other? Because that's kind of the Darwinian experience you need in a campaign to make sure you're battle tested. They didn't take on Mayor Pete the other day. Right, he's the front runner. But particularly, nobody turns the guns on Biden and forces him on the stage in front of Democrats to explain this. He's going to have to explain it to the American people. It's not going to go away.
So I'll tell you, there are two answers to that question. The first, specific to Biden, is because they think he's dead already. In fact, I had a conversation today with a pretty prominent journalist, someone who maybe they don't subscribe to their particular newspaper at the White House anymore, but pretty prominent nonetheless, and asked that question just about Biden and Brisbane, where this is going to go. And the reporter said to me, you wouldn't, off the record, I'm not saying the reporter's name or anything, but just basically inferred that when Biden stories come up in the newsroom, that they're no longer of interest to the editors because they think he's cooked. They think there's no chance. Now, for the rest of the field, and Raheem called this correctly going into Wednesday night's debate, everyone right now is kind of standing around. It's a little bit of one of those standoffs, and everyone see who's going to be the first one to jump out and do it. But then there'll be the log jams will break, and they'll all start pummeling each other. In particular, they're going to have to start throwing punches at Mayor Pete here because everyone wants to win Iowa, and Mayor Pete's leading both Iowa and New Hampshire by 10 each.
In the impeachment framework, and Raheem, you start, and then I want to go to Jason. Did the Democrats and did Nancy Pelosi, and I do disagree with the president here, I do think she's a master strategist. That's why I think it's a heavyweight title fight between her and President Trump. Did they understand when they started this process they were throwing Joe Biden under the bus?
There's two schools of thought as far as I understand it, and I have some sources in and around that world who have told me in the last 48 hours that it didn't really matter to her what happened to Joe Biden. What she was worried about was the Elizabeth Warrens and the Bernie Sanders types taking control of the race. And we've seen today, I think Michael Bloomberg announced a $30 million ad spend that he intends to go ahead with. Again, some people still think he's not going to jump in, but what I'm getting is that Nancy Pelosi would far more like a middle-of-the-road hyper-establishment type like Bloomberg, like maybe Hillary Clinton, to take the reins, and therefore she just doesn't really care about the people who are going to be affected by this. This is, I've said, and I'll say again, and I'll say over and over and over, this is going to knock Joe Biden out of the race. There is no way, and you heard in that Joe Biden clip when he's talking about, even the Ukrainians didn't cave. Ukrainian MPs went yesterday and put a new criminal referral against Joe Biden. Now, it's only a referral. It has to be taken up by somebody, by a prosecutor, whatever. Listen,
against Burisma, not against Biden. Against Burisma.
They're against Burisma, but they specifically named Biden in the thing.
Why was that not a screaming headline, Jason? That was not. You got the screaming headlines about President Trump everywhere. Why was that not a screaming headline in the mainstream media?
Because the mainstream media was focused on their last best chance that they thought they were going to have at getting President Trump, and they wanted to hype up Fiona Hill and make it sound like she was
Fiona Hill.
Raheem's
English. He's an Englishman. He's an Englishman. Okay, let's go to about how their day was. Let's go to one of our favorites. Let's go to Brother Cuomo and see.
This is really the metaphor.
Metaphor.
This is so we played this on the historic episode number 41 of War Room Impeachment, which, by the way, Raheem, I think had the second most downloads ever.
It's actually, funnily enough, it's actually inching up to our most downloaded show ever.
And so I would encourage everyone to go to warroom.org. You can get the podcast to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, everything. Download episode 41. But yesterday, Chris Cuomo essentially tried to do President Trump had tweeted out. I've tried overhearing someone's call. I can't do it. So Cuomo decided to try on live TV to see if the other folks on set.
Here's why it was interesting. In the actual hearing itself, it kind of beggared belief whether on an open terrace at a restaurant you could actually hear, right? And Holmes was kind of in and out about what he heard and what he could hear. That's why Cuomo was wanted to be like the showstopper here to do it, right?
And that was the brilliant moment in when Holmes totally crumbled yesterday when he was asked, well, how did the conversation start? And he goes, I don't know. And he goes, well, but you heard the middle part, the part that you're recording.
Was this Radcliffe?
Yes.
This is Radcliffe droning.
And then he's asked again, okay, and then what happened after that? He went, I don't know, they talked about Sweden or something, ASAP Rocky, whatever, man.
This is really a metaphor for all of it.
No, but here's why. Before we go, here's why it's important. Remember, go back to how they're trying to run the media narrative here. This was the bomb. The whole first day, the headlines, the paper next, and the bombshell.
Yes.
Bombshell. Bombshell. This call and the ability to hear the call was the bombshell.
Yeah. Well, let's hear Chris Cuomo trying to replicate overhearing a phone call in a noisy place.
Very interesting theory from our president that he has really good hearing, some would say the best hearing ever, and he's never been able to hear a phone call when it wasn't on speakerphone from anybody. So let's just play with that for a second. Mom, can you hear me? All right, so if I were holding the phone here, I'm with Dana Bash. You know how you're always telling me to let her talk because she's so smart and I shouldn't say so much? Can you just say hello? Mom, she probably can't hear me. Mom, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. When you talk to me, I hear you.
I'm talking to you. Say hello to Dana Bash.
Hi, Mrs. Cuomo. How are you?
This is brutal. This is brutal. This is brutal.
So,
Mom?
All right.
Mom?
If the glove doesn't fit, you can't quit. He had to have tried that. Didn't he try that before it went on air? He just did it. Just felt so confident. He just did it live.
This is live TV hubris. Or I saw someone, I think it was Axios, had it. If you can't hear, you must clear.
Pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Let's go to
speaking of the way they've melted down, and we've talked about this. You've got to watch the meta narratives as far as the media reporting is.
What do you
concerned.
think the meta narratives
Well, there's
are?
a reason they're shifting away from all this. Look, firstly, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, they knew they wanted to close on Russia. That's why they brought Dr. Fiona Hill in. It shifted it away from the original allegations of any wrongdoing as far as quid pro quo, bribery, blackmail, whatever, he probably ran someone over in the street. Who knows what else, what other charges they're going to throw at Trump. And so they shifted. And then you saw this morning that the headline was nothing to do with impeachment, nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with anything that you would think this is their big gloating day, right? They've just had a week's worth of, as you said, Steve, bombshells. And what's the headline? What's the leading story on CNN right now? Trump makes at least 18 false claims in ranting Fox and Friends interview. And it's a BuzzFeed listicle, right? 1 to 18. And, they get into such details, such important details as, well, Trump said Obama only sent pillows and blankets, but actually he sent some radar equipment too to Ukraine. Hunter Biden, he said, they say Hunter Biden has never made 10 cents in his life, Trump said this morning. They say, well, actually, Hunter Biden was at the Department of Commerce and a lobbyist and on the board of Amtrak. Yeah, he's not made 10 cents in his life. He's taken money from public institutions all his life.
Let's go to, before we get back to the Trump, and we'll do that after the hour. Jonathan Turley kind of set up, after the whole week, they've had, 2 weeks now of all their superstars curated down in the audition room, and now they had them on national TV, a whole week, broadcast TV also, and Turley kind of pops the balloon, doesn't he?
Absolutely. And this, Raheem, do you want to? Okay. So Jonathan Turley, GW University constitutional law professor.
No friend of Trump.
No. I think he has had moments where he's played it fairly, but this is one you looked around the rest of the CBS set and everyone just looked crestfallen. It was like they just, Tooth Fairy's not real, Easter Bunny's not real. I mean, Jonathan Turley was definitely dropping some logic, and he lined out just how thin he thought this evidentiary record was. And Raheem, do you want to play the clip?
I do want to play the clip.
Let's do it.
I think that this is certainly the shortest investigation. It's certainly the thinnest evidentiary record, and it's the narrowest impeachment ever to go to the Senate. If they were to go on this record.
Why don't they have a case?
Well, because the question is, did they prove something was contemptible or impeachable? Contemptible is not synonymous with impeachable. The president does set policy. They have 3 conversations, 2 of them directly, one with Senator Johnson, one with Ambassador Sondland, where Trump denies a quid pro quo. So you have a conflicted record. And the question is, what do you need to remove a sitting president? Whether this is intentional or not, it seems designed to fail in the Senate. I don't think you could prove a removable offense of a president on this record, even if the Democrats were in control. This thing is too narrow. It doesn't have a broad foundation, and it's an undeveloped record. There are a lot of core witnesses that were not called, and the question is why. They said we want to vote by December. We want to vote before Santa. Why? And I got to tell you, I think that this could be the trial that Trump wants, and the first witness they call may be Hunter Biden.
Well, Trump did say he wanted that trial.
Okay, that was so much better than this morning. This morning was tough. That's brutal.
Yeah, and so, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting into the holiday season. Jonathan Turley, I think we just heard his last appearance.
I was going to say the same thing.
And so let's make sure let's drop off some canned goods to Professor
the
Turley.
Former CBS legal analyst.
Jonathan Turley will now be a co-host on War Room Impeachment.
Premier. No, that had to stun. You could hear the air coming out of the balloon on the set. How brutal. Here's the thing. The buried lead in there, even if the Democrats controlled the Senate. That is absolutely stunning from a guy with the constitutional expertise of Turley.
And it's like you've said all along, Steve, the facts are our friends. And the more granular and the more detailed and the more legal that we get in this, the better things look for President Trump.
That is actually why I believe that the Republican Council has been setting up evidence for a Senate trial, while the Democrat counsel has been setting up headlines for CNN this whole time. That's why we're in a better place.
We got to jump for a commercial break here in a second, but how does that make, if you're one of the 31 Democrats that go home now for 10 days, and that is the key thing, these swing districts, how does Turley make you feel?
Well, this ties into what we talked about earlier this morning with Kevin McCarthy and other Republican members saying that these guys are having second thoughts and they can't vote for this and they might get bounced. This is going to make every local reporter ask them that question. It's going to make every political consultant involved in this say, should you really be taking this vote? They're in a tough spot.
Let's take a short break. It's War Room Impeachment, episode 43, here at the Breitbart Embassy, live on America's Voice.News and the John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll return in just a moment.
War Room Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, episode 43, here with Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller, my 2 wingmen, the master communication strategists. We're live on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on the Salem Radio Network, on America's Voice.News, and now on Newsmax TV. Thanks for the folks at Newsmax make that possible. Chris Reddy and the great team down there in Florida. Raheem, talk to us about the website. We've made this website. We've got a war room here, a real war room with op research and with rapid response and surrogates and everything like that. This is the podcast for it. And talk to us about how people get constant updated information 24 hours a day.
Yeah, if you go to the website warroom.org, on the navigation bar at the very top of the site, you will see a thing that says newsletter. You click on the newsletter thing, drop your email in there. We don't spam. We'll update you with the latest show, so you can hear the latest show every day, but that's it. And that's you can also go across to the podcast tab. Make sure you subscribe to that. But the newsletter is going great guns at the moment. We have a way higher than industry standard open rate, Steve.
That's fantastic. I saw that. It's amazing. Okay, let's go talk about open rates. Let's go to what is this about the return of John Bolton in the digital space? He's a specter that's been haunting this, right?
Digital
about
Bolton. What
John Bolton knows, the National Security Advisor. His name came up a lot. The left is saying Pompeo, Mulvaney, Pence, and Bolton. Why are they not talking? Why are they not coming forward as witnesses? John Bolton's returned.
Yeah, so book deal Bolton back in the news today. So the last time that we heard from the former ambassador, on September 10th, he tweeted out, "I offered to resign last night, and President Trump said, quote, let's talk about it tomorrow." We have not heard from John Bolton via Twitter. We hear lots of different things behind the scenes, but we haven't heard from him on Twitter since then until this morning.
So 2 months.
Yes. And he pops up and he tweets, "Glad to be back on Twitter after more than 2 months. For the backstory, stay tuned."
Wow.
Then he follows up, "Glad to be," and then he retweets himself, which
Hold
is
it, hold it, hold it. When you retweet yourself, you're basically saying, pay attention, right?
Exactly. So, for
It's
example,
digital onanism.
Yes. Yes.
and President Trump does all the time. I do it all the time.
Right.
But it's basically you want people to see that point. But when you haven't tweeted in 2 months and then you pop up and you retweet yourself as your first tweet, that basically you're into book deal promotion mode.
Right.
But so then the next
the operative
thing,
word there is backstory.
yes. So the next tweet from Ambassador Bolton, "We have now liberated the Twitter account previously suppressed unfairly in the aftermath of my resignation as National Security Advisor. More to come."
Hang on. Suppressed, liberated, and I resigned.
Yes.
Right. 3 things the White House may contradict on.
And then he says, "Regarding speaking up, since resigning as National Security Advisor, the White House refused to return access to my personal Twitter account out of fear of what I might say, ? To those who speculated I went into hiding, I'm sorry to disappoint." Oh, he doesn't stop. And then literally just an hour ago, he tweets out, "In full disclosure, the White House never returned access to my Twitter account. Thank you to @Twitter for standing by their community standards and rightfully returning control of my account." That's just an hour ago.
Okay, something's weird here because, and for your ordinary person, you have no reason to remember this, but I remember sitting here last week and seeing that President Trump had retweeted an old Ambassador Bolton tweet from the 10th of September. He did it last week. Something obviously has been going on with Bolton and the White House.
September 10th is the day he resigned, right?
Yeah.
He resigned on September 10th.
Yeah. So something obviously has been going on with this account in the White House, and I think Trump or somebody with Trump's account may have been heckling
How
Bolton
is the
last week.
mainstream? If they picked it, how's the mainstream media handling this so far? And why is this a big deal, Jason?
Well, it's a big deal because Democrats want Bolton to come and testify. They want him, obviously, right now, because of executive privilege. He's not doing it. The administration has made very clear.
He
that
has asked for legal. I mean, he put himself in. He's forced this thing. He has his lawyer that is arguing to make a decision. I will testify if I'm told to.
But it's a little bit of a thou doth protest too much. I mean, it's a little bit of a fakery because John Bolton is never going to step forward and testify. If he did, his little PAC disappears. Any hope of getting back on Fox News disappears. Anything, these book deals, the sales, everything goes and disappears unless he decided to 100% flip and start attacking the president, in which case, I mean, his career is over. I mean, it's finished. But
you're saying in the conservatives, among people that have supported him for years, people have bought the books, people that have watched him on Fox, contribute to his PAC, the small donors, large donors, all that, the audiences he got at CPAC, you think that all goes away?
All goes away. He never gets invited back to CPAC. Nikki Haley never returns his phone call again. Marco Rubio never returns his phone call again. He basically, I mean, that's it. I mean, at that point, he's not going to learn how to code. He can probably go to teach at a university or something like that. But he's basically burns every bridge. But there's an important thing that's going on here. And when I pick on Ambassador Bolton and say book deal Bolton, and the reason why this has frustrated me so much is we've seen these nuggets. We've seen Ambassador Bolton teasing out that he wants to go out there and talk, that he wants to go and testify. We saw Chuck Cooper, who's his lawyer, very excellent lawyer. I know him, have worked with him quite well in the past, said, my client has a lot to offer. And they threw that out just a week or so back, maybe a week and a half back. There's no chance he ever does it. But what they're doing is Ambassador Bolton has signed a $2 million book deal, and he's ginning up interest that he has something to say. I mean, from a pure marketing PR, if you're trying to sell books, he's playing it perfect. But from the aspect of where are your loyalties, are you actually going to stand by the president that you swore to work with and who had a lot of confidence in you, it's pretty low rent.
Raheem, you spend a lot of time and you deconstruct social media as well as anybody. Why would he be so provocative coming back today?
Do you know, honestly, I agree with Jason. I think he knows that this isn't about testimony. This is about drumming up news coverage for John Bolton. He's got a brand new spanking flashy website with a big press.
I haven't seen that. Is that just launched?
With a big press release on it about his PAC donating to candidates, and it's all very nice. And now the URL to Bolton PAC is in the bio on Twitter, and he's got this lovely banner image.
That's a tell. That's a tell.
Yeah. It's
never about the money.
It's a come to my website, sign up for the email list. It's that kind of thing. And look, he's been in this game for so very long. He knows how to get news coverage, and he's doing it.
Let's talk about the legendary head of the Southern District of New York, the prosecutor, Preet. What did he had some interesting things to say today also, didn't he?
Yeah, so the backstory to this being the documents.
He's
that
turned
are
into a hater, hasn't he? I mean, he's on CNN.
Turned into one. Steve, did you miss him during Mueller and Michael Cohen?
I was there when, remember, he was extended at one time, so I sat in.
He's a hater. He's a hater of the first magnitude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is to do with the FISA documents and the FBI official under investigation for allegedly
Talk about
altering
FISA for a minute.
documents.
Make sure the audience understands what it is and why are these courts so important and what is it?
So this is the IG, the investigative report that the Department of Justice has been undertaken to find out where all the illegalities of things were back during 2016, the illegal taps, the illegal monitoring of Trump campaign officials. And there's a breaking news story that's actually on the New York Times where they essentially lay the case out there that only some lower level people committed crimes and illegalities. And in particular, there's a quote unquote low level lawyer. Would they ever call a Republican who's involved in the Trump administration? They would say a key Trump official is how they'd. So this, as the New York Times said, this isn't me disrespecting a gentleman named Kevin Kleinsmith. The New York Times calls him a low level lawyer. They essentially try to make it sound like it's only these low-level people who committed illegalities. But I want to tell people how serious this is. Go and take a step back. Because I know, look, Carter Page, I don't think I've ever met him in person. Just kind of a goofy guy you see on TV. Yeah. And so he's not someone who's a particularly sympathetic character. But literally, this Kevin Kleinsmith clown went and altered the documents that the FBI was using to renew a wiretap on a member or someone who's...
FISA are these secret courts.
Yes.
Right? Secret courts by Judge Dunn really came up in the age of terrorism after 9/11. You have these secret courts. You can go in and get wiretaps. You can do all sorts of things. Very controversial, but has been a great weapon in the war on terror.
Yeah.
And this question is, how did the FISA courts kind of come into this? How did you get warrants? How did you get wiretaps? Which has been, the left has said, oh, this is the Trump crowd, tinfoil hat, right? Conspiracy theory wingnuts. Well, you now have investigations, and like you said, all of a sudden it's like a bombshell that somebody actually has doctored information that's part of this.
And I don't want to get too far away from this, but I want to make sure we also play the pre-clip because he sounded pretty downtrodden as well. But what the New York Times is trying to do here is set up what this report is going to have is basically enough to make both sides happy and to raise question marks. They're already trying to frame it in a way that's not a slam dunk. And if they're framing it now as a jump ball, that means it's going to be bad
But
for
this is something that's very important that many people just watch CNN and the mainstream media haven't seen. If you go to Fox, you go to some of the conservative websites, you understand about some of these issues that popped up. People say, oh, this is crazy. It was dismissed yesterday by Fiona Hill. This is a conspiracy theory. All this stuff's conspiracy theories. In President Trump's what they call the affirmative defense, part of that is going to be get into this system, and I think Lindsey Graham's going to get into some of this, is that, hey, maybe this is not tinfoil hat. Maybe there was issues at FISA. The IG report is supposed to be, President Trump touted today. As we do the timeline, we believe that the actual report that goes to the Judiciary Committee could go to the Judiciary along the same 48 hours, 72 hours as Durham's, the U.S. Attorney in Connecticut, Durham's report comes, the IG report of Horowitz's. Horowitz's IG report gets dropped on the 9th, which is supposed to be pretty definitive.
Yeah. Should we listen to the Preet Bharara freak out?
Let me bring Preet Bharara, the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. What's your reaction, Preet?
Well, that's kind of an alarming bit of news. Obviously, based on what Evan is saying, there's a lot we don't know. But given the description he has provided, if there was an FBI agent sworn to uphold the Constitution who can be proven to have altered a document in connection with a legal proceeding, including the obtaining of a FISA warrant, that's really serious. It doesn't get a lot more serious than that. I'd like to know the details of what the nature of the change was, if there's a mistake in some way. Based on that reporting, it doesn't sound like it was. I want to keep an open mind about it, but that's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing.
I know he doesn't sound like he's freaking out.
Oh, he's freaking out.
He is
No.
The CNN clip, he is ashen-faced.
No, that is very big for a guy that's, plays it close to the vest. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll have the research guys look at it. I don't think there's ever been a charge ever in a FISA court, as tough as these things are, because these are highly classified, where somebody actually, an FBI agent or somebody in the system, tampered with the documents. This is a bombshell. I don't care if the guy's a clerk. Forget the fact he's an official. If this had been the Trump administration, right, on Obama or something like that, it'd literally be 5 pages in the New York Times.
And this would absolutely, if there was, to go flip this around, I mean, this would take anyone down. And the fact, I mean, I just want to make sure people realize the severity of this. So you're not allowed to spy on American citizens.
Yes.
And there are some very strict regulations and legal hurdles that you have to go through to get authorizations for wiretaps. And this is very strict.
As it should be.
As it should be.
Right.
I mean, this is like one of the most, this isn't some movie.
No.
This is, I mean, could you imagine, Steve, you found out that FBI was tapping your phone, or Raheem, that, FBI, just because they didn't like your politics, was looking at this. So when President Trump talked about the taps, this is what it was. You actually had someone within the FBI.
Remember, the FISA courts were essentially set up. I mean, they've been for a while, but this thing was been honed down and focused on terrorism and anti-terror for the last 10 or 15 years. And they've very tightly run. Very senior judges, secret proceedings, right? Highly classified, to know that something would be in Preet's voice, you could tell him that was like shock. And he said, hey, this is very serious.
And here's the thing that's not going to get enough justice on this, and I hope people on the right really pay attention. This is what kicked off the 2-year Mueller drama.
100%.
This is what kicked this all off. And so this Kevin Kleinsmith character, as the New York Times wants to call him, a low-level lawyer. No.
There are no low-level lawyers.
This POS, I don't want to get John Fredericks another $250 fine, but you can read between the lines here, went and altered an email to go and get a fake, unjustifiable wiretap. And this led to the entire 2-year, tens of millions of dollars Mueller drama.
Well, you're going to hear terms like crossfire hurricane. A lot of stuff's going to come up. The IG report's going to be dropped around the same time, we think, as the report from the House Intelligence Committee for the impeachment of President Trump. That report and the minority report that Jim Jordan and Devin Nunes are doing is also going to go to the Judiciary Committee. That will be a bombshell. Followed by this bombshell, this IG report that should have many other things like this in it. This is going to be quite controversial. Let's go back to President Trump today. Because part of this was about things like this, and he went to CrowdStrike. He went to some other things, talked about the IG report, talked about CrowdStrike. Why late in the afternoon do they want to change the topic? I mean, we just had the listicle that came out. But why do they want to change the topic on what was so explosive this morning?
Because he crushed them this week. I mean, this doesn't come from an aspect of bravado or because I'm obviously an unabashed President Trump supporter, but Democrats have realized that what they thought was their dream, and when I say Democrats in the media, somewhat I'm using that interchangeably, they thought this was their chance to really get him. And what they found was, even when you have Jonathan Turley and other legal scholars saying, actually, this is pretty weak and it's designed to fail, they realize they don't have it. This is why you have those House freshmen freaking out as they're going home to their districts. This is it. And so President Trump, I mean, he came out and threw down with some pretty strong stuff this morning.
53 minutes, right? Blowing through commercial breaks. Talked about the essence, and jump in here. And if you got a clip you want to play quickly that you like, Raheem will do that. But go through why he took the high ground. He wants to see a trial. He wants to see substance. New York Post has got a headline, affirmative defense.
Because President Trump knows that his supporters need to hear from him that he believes that he won the week, and that his supporters should feel like collectively they all won the week. That this is, and actually I see John Bolton in the background on CNN, but
pushing a book deal.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he's already getting some TV advanced sales going, pushing the URL. But what President Trump wanted to make sure is that it's what we call in communications, preaching to your own choir. So he wanted to make sure anyone who's a supporter of his knows, hey, we just heard it right from the pulpit that things are going good. And also not just that, but Steve, you pointed out, here's the specific hymnal we're going to. So President Trump went through this morning. He threw down pretty strongly on the IG report, talking about the illegal surveillance of his campaign. Let's not, try to confuse that at all. That's very clearly illegal. He said also this morning that he thought it went to the top. The host at Fox News pressed him. We think this means Obama. And he goes, looking at the way this thing is going, I think this thing went to the top. So, when you look at all the officials and people involved, look, President Trump's been right on a lot of these things. He went right to CrowdStrike. He went right to, he dove into everything this morning. But I think the media is so crushed after this week. They just they either want to pack up and go home for Thanksgiving, or they're trying to recalibrate and figure out how the heck do we combat this guy. It's like the Energizer Bunny, like we can't stop him.
I want to try and do this clip from this morning with President Trump talking about CrowdStrike on Fox News.
They have the server, right, from the DNC, Democratic National Committee.
Who has the server?
Now, the FBI went in and they told him, get out of here. You're not getting it. We're not giving it to you. They gave the server to CrowdStrike, or whatever it's called, which is a company owned by a very wealthy Ukrainian. And I still want to see that server. You know, the FBI has never gotten that server. That's a big part of this whole thing. Why did they give it to a Ukrainian company?
Are you sure they did that? Are you sure they gave it to Ukraine?
Well, that's what the word is, and that's what I asked actually in my phone call, if you know.
Right.
I mean, I asked it very point blank because we're looking for corruption. There's tremendous corruption. We're looking for, why should we be giving hundreds of millions of dollars to countries when there's this kind of corruption?
People are saying. Many people are saying.
Many people are saying.
That's what the word is.
Many people are saying no. But, and this is where I think the Republicans ought to listen up. He is adamant. And Jason, you've seen it so many times before. He is adamant. It's a perfect phone call. I was doing what the people that elected me to do to reverse America decline. And, you know, God bless Dr. Fiona Hill, and God bless these people that are hardworking public servants, but they are essentially factotums or functionaries that are supposed to execute on the national security policy of the commander-in-chief, and he's duly elected. This is coming down to trying to undo a democratically elected president.
What President Trump did today was tell everyone who's a supporter of his, do not cede a single inch.
Exactly.
Do not back down. That's why he went so strong in the affirmative for Rudy. For any of this silly talk.
About Rudy.
Yeah,
and then Rudy got the mojo. Rudy punching,
got the mojo.
He's
Rudy
punching on Biden.
Rudy is back, baby. He is back and he's fired up. And it's good. It's you know what? I mean, the mayor has been.
Can we go talk Rudy into, we'll partner with our podcast and we'll get him on here instead of doing his own independent podcast?
I'll see. I'll call him tonight, see if we can get back on for a third episode. As folks might know, I worked for the mayor in 2008, so I have a pretty long.
You have a great relationship. I know he thinks very highly of you.
And so, look, the mayor has been dragged through the mud, treated horribly during this entire process. And you know what? Turns out he is right. But the reason why the media didn't want to pick up on some of the president's comments today, because they don't want to give oxygen to all of the illegalities that went on in 2016.
How's this being amplified now in conservative media? Let's go. Is it CNN that's got the list of quotes? But I think it's important. And so
it's my favorite thing of the day.
And CNN, is it CNN with Jake Tapper has all the president's lies is playing Sunday night? Have you seen this special they've done?
Seen this.
They have a thing coming up. We'll get it up. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning. Not all the president's men, not all the president's men and women, all the president's lies, and they go through the lies.
We can do all of CNN's lies. You want to do a new documentary?
Whoa, that's a throwdown, Mr. Zucker. Talk about what they got up right now. What they're focused on is with the 17 lies of Donald Trump.
Yeah, Trump makes at least 18 false claims in ranting Fox and Friends interview. It's really interesting. So this is under CNN's Facts First header on their website.
This is not the K file, or is this not the
No,
K
this is a different file. This is the Fact file. The other one is the Friends file. And, they've got Daniel Dale and Tara Subramanian who've written this article, right? And it's gone up.
Daniel Dale's supposed to be legendary over there, right? Isn't he the facts guy?
But it's
no. That's Daniel Dale's the Toronto Star guy.
Toronto Star guy.
It's 4:22 in the afternoon. This went up. That means that these two journalists have been sitting there all day at their desks
since 9 a.m. this morning.
Putting a listicle together for the lead on the CNN website.
The
day after the big bombshell. The day after they put the ribbon on the whole impeachment thing. It's pathetic. It's hilarious. I recommend it to you guys. They talk about
we're going to put it up on the site.
Yeah, we'll put it up on the site.
Here's the thing, and someone who is very proud of the opportunity I have to be a political commentator on CNN. CNN has some very good reporters and some great people there. In particular, I think a lot of the folks at the DC bureau are just absolute top shelf.
They're not hiring you back, bro.
Oh, I know. No, this is from the heart. They have some really good reporters there. They can't be happy when they see a BuzzFeed listicle on the top of their website.
Top of the page.
They can't be happy about
not what they're supposed to do. Okay. Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. You've been listening to War Room Impeachment, episode 43, another classic. Okay, we're going to be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Raheem, Jason, Steve, and go to our warroom.org, the website. Go there right now. Give us your email address, and it'll be on the new site. Thank you very much from the John Fredericks Radio Network.